This session is a book launch of Erotext, Desire, Disease, Delusion, Dream, Downpour by Sudeep Sen. Our moderator for the session is Salman Tariq Qureshi. Salman Sahab is an English language poet and newspaper columnist. Writing since his teens, his poems and short stories have appeared in various international and local periodicals. His poems have been published in such anthologies as Pieces of Eight, Legacy of the Indus, Blue Wind, an anthology, Dragonfly in the Sun, and Journal of Post-Colonial Writing.
Thank you. Is this okay? Is this working?
Hello, check one. Hello, check 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Can you hear? Is this working? Everything? Hello? Acha. Okay, fine. Okay, this is my job is to introduce Sudeep Sen. Sudeep is a poet from India.
Mike.
Sudeep is a poet from India. He lives in Delhi. His origin.
Excuse me,
You can't
can
hear?
you come and sit in the center, please, Sudeep? This is bad. आपकी lecture छुपा रहा है आपको. The lecture is hiding you, so if you can sit in the center.
I think this will be better. Yeah, that's better. Okay, Sudeep lives in Delhi. He was educated at the sound. Are we all right now? Okay. Sudeep was educated, early education in India, in Delhi. Hello? Okay, this is much better. This is much better. Okay. Sudeep was born in 1964. He lives today in London and in Delhi. He was educated in India and at Columbia. And he is the poet in residence at the Scottish Poetry Library in Edinburgh and the visiting scholar at Harvard. His books, he has a number of books to his credit, including Postmarked India, Postcards from Bangladesh, Prayer Flags, Distracted Geographies, Rain, Aria, Fractals, and Erotext, which is being launched today. His forthcoming book is The Blue Nude, New Poems and Expresses. It's not a term I know, you'll have to tell me about it. Tell us about it. You'll have to tell us about it, Sudeep. He's also edited several anthologies, and he's been translated into a number of languages. And he's received a number of prizes. I'm going to hand over this to Amina Sayed now, who I think will introduce the book, Erotext.
Thank you. Salman, it's my great pleasure to introduce Sudeep Sen. I think this is his first visit to the Karachi Literature Festival. And I would really like to welcome you very warmly, Sudeep. It's a pleasure to have you in Pakistan. Sudeep Sen is a leading poet in India and also a poetry editor. And he's a poet in residence in Edinburgh and also works at Harvard. So it's really a big honor for us to have him here today. And I think this book is so important, and I think I don't want to stand in the way of this session, especially with Sudeep reading parts of his work. So I just want to welcome you very warmly to Karachi, and I hope that we will continue to benefit from your visits. Thank you, Salman, and thank you, Sudeep. Assalamu alaikum. Sorry?
Just to announce that the book is available at Liberty Bookstall here, and some copies here. And after we are through with the poetry readings later on, Sudeep will be available to sign the book.
Assalamu alaikum. Namaskar. Good evening. It's a real treat and honor to be back here. This is my second trip. The first time I was here was in Lahore last year. I'm going to start the reading with a couple of poems because I think it's best to get right into the text rather than talking around the text, which everybody is very good at, because the primary source is the literature itself. The first poem I'm going to read, I'm going to mix and match between Erotext, which has just been launched here, and Fractals, which actually came out last month in London, which are the two new books. So I'll weave in and out because the next session is also on poetry with a lot of colleagues of ours. Looking forward to that, a lot of Pakistani poets reading. So I have a little slot there, so I'll move in and out of that. I'll comment on the title, yes. She's a hard taskmaster. I've moved my seat for you. I will also comment on the title. Kargil, यहाँ गोरे तो ज़्यादा नहीं है तो मतलब everybody knows Kargil. It was the last flashpoint between our two very friendly countries. Sadly, my son was young then. This was 10 years after the Kargil war. And I do a lot of trekking and camping and whitewater rafting. And we did this wonderful trip from Delhi to Srinagar, across to Leh, through Kulu and back. We were on the road for about 2.5 months. Kargil was not on my itinerary. But my son at the time was at an age where he was playing with plastic guns and toys and bullets and so on. Completely legit, I think. Boys should do it, as girls should do it as well. His fantasy, of course, he said, Baba, let's go to Kargil, because he said, we'll find bullets and shells and whatnot. But it was 10 years after the war, and it's an outpost of a town. So it was a boring, very, very pedestrian place, lots of dust and trucks and things that nobody wants to see. He felt really guilty. But for poets and writers, we all have this third eye, third antenna, where we pick up things and write. And so this came from there. So it opens with an epigraph from Derek Walcott's book-length poem called Teopola's Hound. And I quote, "Our street of smoke and fences, gutters gorged with weed and reeking, scorching iron grooves of rusted galvanize, a dialect forged from burning asphalt, and a sky that moves with thunderhead cumuli, grumbling with rain. 10 years on, I came searching for war signs of the past, expecting remnants, magazine debris, unexploded shells, shrapnels that mark bomb wounds. I came looking for ghosts, people past, skeletons charred, abandoned brick, wood, cement that once housed them. I could only find whispers, whispers among the clamor of a small town outpost in full throttle, everyday chores sketching outward signs of normalcy and life. In that bustle, I spot war lines of a decade ago, though the storylines are kept buried, wrapped in old newsprint. There's order amid uneasiness, the muezzins cry, the monks chant, baritones merging in their separateness. At the bus station, black coughs of exhaust smoke screen everything. The roads meet, and after the crossroad ritual diverge, skating along the undotted lines of control. A porous garland with cracked beads adorns Tiger Hill. Beyond the mountains are dark memories, and beyond them no one knows. And beyond them no one wants to know. Even the flight of birds that wing over their crests don't know which feathers to down. Chameleon-like they fly, tracing perfect parabolas, I look up and calculate their exact arc and find instead a flawed theorem. There is an order here which one has to stick to. But 3 of my poems have been very kindly translated by Salman into Urdu. So I want to get those in first, if that's okay. But so I think I'll dive into Erotext, and this particular poem is called Desire. And one of the things Salman wanted me to talk about is how does one write about erotica? It's an area that interests me a lot. The problem with writing about erotica is it's one of those very, very tough spaces, because if you push it too far, you enter this P space, the pornographic space. If you undercook it, it's like callow love poetry, which we've all written with illusions of flesh and body and desire, lips and mounds and so on and so forth, as we've written in school and college. However, we have this wonderful tradition in South Asia where erotic sculpture, erotic art, erotic poetry was flourishing at one point. You have the Khajuraho temples, you have the Ajanta Ellora caves, you have the Sufi poetry, the Bhakti poetry, which is religious poetry. You have the Tamil Sangam poets way back in the ancient Indias, which dealt very, very beautifully about erotica. And the whole idea and the challenge to me is, how do you skate on that little thin line? And the key is to understate things or just leave it short. So this one's called Desire, and I'm really keen to hear how it sounds in Urdu after this. Okay. Just a moment, I'll just find it. I think there's a attempt to guillotine me, so I can't find the page. I don't know who's. Is it the Indian government? I think so, or maybe yes. You can't be presenting this. Sorry. It's there in the slides later, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. I'm just I'll find it. Oh, let me just read. I'll get to that later. I'll read Ma, which comes very soon. Ma, I wrote when my mother died a few years ago. I lost both my parents, one after the other. So this poem still stings, but it stings more because of the kind of mess we are in. That my mother died and she was in the hospital, and for the first month, I could not grieve. Why? Because I had to take the body out of the hospital, pay hospital bills, get death certificates, which meant going to various bureaucratic offices, getting the forms in triplicate. So by the time all that happened, a good 3-4 weeks had passed, and I couldn't even shed a tear. It's ironic that you can't even cry because of the systems we are in. So this is just a little poem for her, simply titled Ma. As if in a dream, you disappeared unannounced, untimely, and unprepared. The handwritten diary you left behind weepingly revealed your sordid, searing pain. Grief-struck, I run around the city's municipal offices, rummaging through bureaucratic files, seeking your death certificate for validation, as if losing you wasn't loss enough.
Okay, hello? Oh, no, this thing never works. Hello, is this working? Huh? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask Hamad here to read the Urdu translation of Ma.
माँ जैसे एक ख्वाब में तुम नज़रों से ओझल हो जाती हो, बिन बताए, बेवक्त और बिना तैयारी के। वो हस्तलिखी डायरी जो तुमने अपने पीछे छोड़ी थी, उसने रोते हुए तुम्हारे मज़मूम और सख्त आज़ार का इंकशाफ कर दिया। गम से निढाल मैं शहर के म्यूनिसिपल दफातर के चक्कर काटता रहा, दफ्तरी फ़ाइलों को खंगालता रहा, तौसीक के लिए तुम्हारा डेथ सर्टिफिकेट तलाश करता रहा, जैसे तुम्हें खोना कोई बड़ा नुकसान ना हो।
क्या बात है। I think my mother will be eternally happy because of your country. She's heard it in one of her zubans. So that's thank you very much. So the one I was trying to search for where the mic was electrocuting me, this is called Desire. Under the soft, translucent linen, the ridges around your nipples harden at the thought of my tongue. You, lying inverted like the letter C, arch yourself deliberately, wanting the warm press of my lips. It's wet to coat the skin that is bristling, burning, breaking into sweats of desire, sweet juices of imagination. But in fact, I haven't even touched you. At least, not yet. This may not be on the...
It's there. Hamad will read it now. Khwahish.
ख्वाहिश। नरमो शफीफ कतान तले तुम्हारी भटनियों के गिर्द उभार मेरी जीभ के ख्याल से सख्त हो गए हैं। तुम औंधी लेटी हुई हर्फ हे की तरह जान बूझकर ख़ुद को झुकाती हो, मेरे लबों का गरम लम्स महसूस करना चाहती हो। लबों की नमी जो तुम्हारे ख्वाहिश के पसीनों में गाहे बगाहे जलते टूटते तन को नम कर सके, तख़य्युल के मीठे रस। लेकिन दरअसल मैंने तो तुम्हें कभी छुआ ही नहीं, कम से कम अभी तक नहीं।
There's a companion poem to this, much like, say, Milton's Le Allegro and El Penseroso, which work as sister-brother poems. This one I didn't plan to read, but I'm going to read it anyway because every day I'm pretty much having this wonderful dessert called gajar ka halwa. तो गाजर का हलवा खाने के बाद तो फिर थोड़ा मूड ही बदल जाता है। तो ये जो वाली जो कविता है, it's meant for all single people who can seduce other people by cooking. Very important tool, by the way. People underestimate such things. So if you follow this poem very closely, you will get a cracking bowl of gajar ka halwa. Simply called Indian dessert, but it could be Pakistani dessert, it could be our dessert. Clumps of wet smoke simmer in the pan and slowly lift to caress the outline of your breasts as you cook, stirring spices in carrot, milk, and cream. Ingredients that conjure recipes of hunger and passion. As you melt sugar and butter and gently stroke flakes of grated almond shavings, more clumps of perfume smoke permeate through the silk of your shirt, now transparent in heat, painting the outer circle of the nipples to an hardened edge, tasting the sweet skin, the surface of the crinkled base, to a creamed mouthful of untampered delicacy. This, followed by a splash of single malt, goes down really well.
And now I think everybody's quite clear why I chickened out of translating this one.
Salman's excited, he's going to translate all my erotic poems. That's fantastic, isn't it? Okay. Sorry? I'll supply the single malt and the ingredients. How does that sound? Okay, so this, since Karachi is just getting over winter, I thought I'll reintroduce winter, because I'm coming from Delhi where it was fairly cold. And, when you have hot summers for about 7 months, winter seems like a very attractive proposition. So you write poems about such things. But it's about various other things, of course. Winter. Couched on crimson cushions, pink bleeds gold, and red spills into one's heart. Broad leather keeps time, calibrating different hours and different zones, unaware of the grammar that makes sense. Only random woofs and snores of two different dogs on a very cold night clears fog that is unresolved. New plants wait for new heat to grow, to mature. An old cane recliner contains poetry for peace, woven text keeping comfort in place. But it is the impatience of want that keeps equations unsolved. Heavy, translucent, vaporous, split red by mother tongues, winter's breath is pink. I just got this fantastic semaphore signal from the back. I'm glad I can read flag signals, I have time for 2 more poems, I think. Unless I read an epic, which will completely derail the entire festival. This one is again a very familiar poem, I think, to all of you. I'm trying to choose things which actually also make sense into our landscape. This is called banyan, and you know the banyan tree, one of the most wonderful, wondrous trees. As a child, I remember playing hide and seek all around, and these fantastic tertiary roots which become like a huge beehive, and so on. This particular poem structurally is one line, which is one sentence, so there's only a full stop right at the end of the poem. And the whole thing sort of tumbles over like that, much like when you have good single malt splashing your palate. It just goes straight down, searingly burning your gullet, and at the end of it, you still think you're drinking something very good. I don't know why. Banyan. As winter secrets melt with the purple sun, what is revealed is electric. Notes tune unknown scales, syntax alters tongues, terracotta melts white, banyan ribbons into armatures as branch roots twist, meeting soil in a circle. Circuits glazed under cloth carry alphabets for a calligrapher's nib, italicized in invisible ink, letters never posted, cartographer's map uncharted. As phrases fold, so do veils. And I'll just end this session by reading a translation of one of the poets I admire from South Asia. This particular poem I'm going to read, called Bonolata Sen, has been translated as many times as the Bible has been translated. It's a cult poem. And I translate from Hindi, Bangla, and Urdu. Urdu, of course, from Devanagari script. And the poetry here in your country is just comes from the gods, I think, really. So this one is a little one which originally was written in Bangla by this wonderful modernist poet called Jivanananda Das. And many of you, anybody speaks Bangla here? Anybody lived in Bangladesh? Ektu. Acha, thik ache. So I'll end with this. Jivanananda Das's Bonolata Sen, translated by me from the original Bangla, or Bengali as the Brits call it. For 1,000 years I walked this earth's passage by day and night. From Lanka's shores to Malay's vast seas I've traveled much, been a guest at Bimbishar and at Ashok's courts, Stayed in the distant nights in the town of Bidharbo, I'm long worn out. Around me waters of sea and life have endlessly swirled. My only peace, a fleeting moment snatched with her, Natorer Bonolota Shen. Chultar, Kobekar, Ondhokar, Bidhishar, Nisha. Like the dense ink night of Bidhisha, her hair black, deep black. Her face like the delicate weave of Shrabosti's filigree frieze. Just as a lost boatman, rudderless, tossing in the far seas, chances upon a lush green isle of spice, I too caught a sight, saw her, a mere glimpse in the dark. Gently raising her eyes like a bird's nest, she whispered, "Where were you all this while?" And there she stands at my dream's end, my own Bonolota Shen. With soft settling hiss of dew, evening closes the day's end. Kites erase from their wings sun-stained smell of flight. When colors of the earth gently fade, fireflies light up their palette, and old songs find new lyric, old stories new score. Birds return home, so do the rivers, as life's trade, its give and take ceases. Only the dark stays, and just as it remains, so does, sitting by my side, face to face, my own Bonolota Shen. Shukriya. Thank you, Amina, for launching the book. Thank you, Salman, for being such a quiet moderator. It's brilliant.
You were reading poetry, and poetry is what people wanted to hear. Thank you, Sudeep.
Thank you.
Might you sit down? And
Thank you very much, and there'll be 10 poets reading their work, so stay on.
Yes. Just wanted to announce that Sudeep's book, Erotext, will be available at Liberty Bookstall, and he'll be ready to sign them after this next session is concluded. So we're rolling straight into the next session. Amina, you stay with us, or? Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay.